There are 30 million Sikhs in the world. Of these, there are millions and millions of Sikh boys who went through the same problems that I faced. Growing up, the helmets that we wore just didn't fit. I remember going to the park and seeing my friends ride around on their bikes, and I remember that I wouldn't want to ride my bike just because I was scared of the way that the helmet fit me. I was humiliated and I was embarrassed of the way that my helmet looked. On top of all things, the helmet didn't actually even protect me. Now, middle school rolled around, and the problem did not decide to fix itself. And so, on the first day of the biking unit, I was standing right in front of a helmet that looked something like this. Now, this helmet is a conventional bike helmet, and when I wear this, you can see that it is absolutely useless. This helmet does not protect my front, my sides, or the back of my head. I put on my thinking cap and I decided that I would make my very own bicycle helmet so that I too could bike at school and enjoy the semester with my friends. I went home that day and with the help of my mom, who made sure I didn't cut off my hand, we cut a small hole in the top of my helmet. Now, even though the helmet was so simple, it was safe, and for the first time ever, I felt like I could ride comfortably. I didn't have to worry about someone looking at me, I didn't have to feel embarrassed, and it really did change my life. This is the first helmet that I ever made. I still keep it with me, it's that important to me, and you can see that once I wear it, it's perfect on my head. You can see that when I wear the helmet, it fits completely on my head. The front, the back, and the sides of my head were completely protected. And so, for the first time, my PE teachers allowed me to ride with the rest of my class. The new helmet was much better than a conventional helmet, and it was much better than no helmet at all. But I still felt like it was a bit unfair. I had to make my very own helmet, and all these other boys could just buy their own helmet. And so I started looking on the internet. I looked everywhere. I spent hours trying to find a Sikh helmet for Sikh boys like me. But I could find absolutely nothing. There was no one selling this, no one manufacturing this. And I realized that if I wanted a manufactured helmet, I would have to do it myself. There is one slight issue though. I had absolutely no knowledge of manufacturing. I know nothing about 3D design. I know absolutely nothing about prototyping. And yet, I still knew that I had to make it happen. At one point, I even tried putting a knee pad on top of my helmet as a prototype. Now, I'm not going to show that to you just to spare your eyes, and you can thank me for that, but you get the idea. So I did what any sensible person would do in this situation, and I decided to Google it. Now, this research started to just be a few minutes, and it turned into a few hours. That research turned into a few days, and finally it turned into a few weeks. I spent time finding the patent process. I was looking for attorneys that would be able to file a patent for me. It was far too expensive, so I decided to scrap that idea, and I decided that I would have to learn the entire patent process on my own. I learned manufacturing, I learned about 3D design. I still had to find someone that would be able to make the helmet for me, or at least make a model of the helmet for me so that I could print my first prototype. Finally, after 6 months of learning, I learned about loopholes, I learned about specifications, I learned about drawing specifications for patents, I learned about legal language. I finally had my very first provisional patent. Now that wasn't the only hurdle that I had to jump over. I still didn't know anything about 3D modeling, and I knew nothing about design. So I reasoned that I would have to find someone that would be able to make the design for me. And the thing is, my budget was very low, so it took me almost weeks. I was almost about to give up and find something else, maybe learn it myself, when finally I found someone that would be willing to work in my budget. It was like a savior from heaven. Finally, over weeks and weeks, on many calls, hours spent, I finally talked to him and we had our first model. Now, if that wasn't enough, we had a model, but we still needed to print it. You see, the issue is the helmet was so large that many people can't even print it in their 3D printers. And so we had to find someone across the entire country that would be able to print the model and then ship that over all over quarantine. and this was absolutely a nightmare. But finally, we had our very first prototype 3D printed helmet. This was the 3D helmet that was shipped across the entire country to reach my house, and finally it was here. I was excited. I was excited to see this helmet, but at the same time, I noticed very quickly that there were a few issues. The first one can be seen when I wear this helmet. It's very obvious. It doesn't fit at all, and I was completely bummed. You could see the helmet doesn't fit at all. If I turn to the side, it's just wobbling around on my head. And second of all, this looked even worse than the conventional helmet. I mean, could you imagine yourself riding around with this helmet? And if I wasn't going to wear this in public, then why would other sick boys wear it in public? You see, this was a very early prototype, and the thing is, you'll never get it right on the first try. And so, it was back to the drawing board for me. Life is a journey, and no one is ever going to hand anything to you. In my case, I had to spend hours before we had a revised design. We took hours of calls, we looked at many different things, and we finally improved the design. Today, the helmet is changing almost every single day. I strive that every change is better than the last. And in the end, who knows how long this project will take? It may take 20 more times before I have a functional model, maybe 200 times, but I'm ready to go all the way. In fact, we have so much ahead of us. We still have to do marketing, economic fundraising. We still have to make sure that people know about the helmet. We still have to get manufactured and tested prototypes that are approved for legal use. Who knows how long this project can take me into the future? There are a few learnings that I took away from this project that I'd love to share with you. You see, change is like a train. Think of it this way. You cannot stop a train. There's almost nothing on this earth that you can put in front of a train that will stop it. But in the same way, just getting a train started takes so much effort. It takes so much force to push a train from 0 to 60. In the same way, change is inevitable. But just to make a small change, you have to be willing to put in the hours, the days, the weeks, the months, sometimes the years to find just small changes. In my case, the fact that millions of young sick boys around the world face this problem keeps me going. I'm determined to take this project to the moon. My name is Armeet Jatyani. Thank you for listening.